Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had, a lot of proof that, you know, some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty, and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
That was the dramatization. How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank Greeley is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have the largest...
He didn't exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can want Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Hello, happy Educational Friday. How y'all doing? Come on in, get the likes up on the video. If you guys like the video, it will go out into the algorithm. So you guys like the video, happy Educational Friday. I'm so happy to see you guys. I missed last Friday because I had to go out of town, but I am back home and we are bike. Yes, Daisha, we are bike like we never left. And today I wanted to talk about Martin Delany. For people who are unfamiliar with him, and then for people who are familiar with him, I want to give y'all a little bit of different perspective. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, Yusef Boo. Shout out to everybody in the building. Y'all like the video, subscribe to the channel. You guys are nothing short of amazing. I wanted to look into the Martin Delany situation because, you know, he's one of the black people who came up with, you know, one of the origins of this Pan-African movement. You know what I'm saying? And I know that origin was very detrimental to our identity and who we are. And I know that anybody working in that movement, I have to squint my eyes at. Now, I'm not saying that Martin Delany did all things bad or he did all things good. No person does all things bad and all things good. And I also understand that some bad is necessary. So let's be clear. However, when it comes down to Martin Delany and this whole origin of us coming from Africa, me understanding that these people literally created a story out of I ain't gonna say out of thin air, but they created this story to educate the children amongst us, because they didn't do this to the adults, to educate the children amongst us or indoctrinate them to give them a whole different perspective of taking them off that land. I'm always looking into the people who are attached to that movement. So W.E.B. Du Bois, and I'm not saying directly, but NAACP, Boule, it's all the same to me. But W.E.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass, you know what I'm saying? A few of these people who were Meatball, y'all know how I go. All these people who were so engulfed in Pan-Africanism, especially at its core, I'm always very interested in them, because now I want to know, was you getting paid? Because what I know now, and what if I know what happens now happened then I know that today people would do anything for $1, for a coin. So what I want to know is, we know Meatball was getting paid. We know that to be a fact. Were all these people on the payroll, or was some of these people, did some of them genuinely believe that we were from Africa? It's just a whole other situation, but we're going to get into that. Y'all get the likes up on the video. Please, I said it earlier, I'm going to say it on every video. Please make sure you guys go outside and do your grounding. Get rid of your phones, your watches, your earbuds, and just go out to the ground and take 10 to 15 minutes of your time, especially around this time of day. And just let your feet touch the soil so that you can ground your energy, ground your thoughts, ground everything that you need, and it'll help you inside and out. Literally. So please do your grounding. Also, make sure you guys do genealogy. That is the pathway to reparations. We have to get it. And the only way we get it is through genealogy. Okay. So make sure y'all do that. All right. So we're going to get into this Martin Delany bit because I was curious. You know what I mean? So, all right. Let's go to Wiki. First of all, most of the internet be lying, but we're going to go to one of the most lying places on the internet, and they call it Wiki. Now, here's Martin Delany, right? Now, I'm going to just tell you off the cuff. Looking at this Martin Delany character, looking at him, they say that he is from America, and he probably is. But his eyes kind of give me a bit of a Caribbean. But I could be wrong. Because according to this biography, and we're going to get into it, Martin Delany was born to 2 African parents. So either way, rather he's African or Caribbean, what we know he ain't is Black American, aka descendant of freemen, aka descendant of slaves, aka niggas. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be careful with words, and the enemy used these words very, very carefully to confuse you. Because now they telling you, and even Wiki would tell you his parents were Africans, but then they will also go on in the same sentence and in the same story and call him an African American. Now, why is this a problem? Who were another group of people that they called African Americans? The descendants, the slaves, or the Black people who are indigenous to this land. Now, why is that detrimental? If you are indigenous to this land, and you have melanated skin, and then someone else with melanated skin come from another land, and they group you all into one group, one or both of you will lose your identity. So the Pan-Africanist movement, or the Pan-Africanism movement, was completely detrimental. It was strategic. It was purposely done, but it was detrimental to us. And I'm talking about our psyche, because remember, they're not feeding this to the grown folks. They feeding this to the children and the lame. And when I say the children and the lame, I don't want nobody to take offense to what I'm about to say. But this is the God's honest truth. If it hurts, that's because it's the truth. Okay. And I'm not trying to drag nobody down, but I got to be honest. When I say the only people they teach this amongst are the children and the lame, it's because those are the only people that they're able to manipulate their minds. What do I mean by that? Who are the children? Those are obvious. People who are younger than us, babies, kindergarten through 12th grade and college and all of that stuff. But now, who are the lame? What y'all don't realize is the lame are the people who have this super duper belief system in that white man stuff. That's the lame. Those are the people that are easily persuaded to listen to, you know what I'm saying, the system. So these are people who seek educational systems. These are people who seek religion. Listen, I'm just giving you the thing. These are people who seek religion. These are people who seek education. These are people who seek outside of themselves and look to the systems that was created to take them down. Those are the people who they teach those beliefs to. So between the children and those adults who are lame, and I don't mean it like how we use the word lame. I mean it as far as having an incapacity in your brain. Okay, so when you're teaching this amongst the children and the lame, it is so much easier for it to spread because number one, you can get some of these adults who really believe in this crap to go along with it and teach more kids. And number two, you can also get more people on the side of this quote unquote truth than the actual truth, which causes most people to do what? Follow trends or follow what the group does. And if the group goes one way, what do most people do? Go the way the group goes. So when I'm thinking about Martin Delany and people talking about, oh, he was an African-American, Black American, he was not one of us. Let me get my girl up here. I need everybody here to know this. I get it. Martin Delany was a melanated person. And from what I hear, he did some great things. And I think that that is so amazing. However, they got to get rid of this term African-American, and we got to learn to read between the lines on that term because there's so many people in history who have real African, allegedly, real African ancestry, and they will call them African-Americans and then call other Black Americans African-Americans the same so that it confuses you. You will think that anybody that's an African-American from this time frame must be indigenous or must be descendant or must be freedmen. I'm sorry. But that's not the case. What they are telling you, which is also a lie, but what they are telling you is they have these Africans coming over here and they're recreating or giving them a new name or a new term, African-American. But the problem is that term already belongs to a group of melanated people who are already on the land. That doesn't confuse the African who's coming into that term. It confuses the people who believe that's who they are. Does that make sense? It doesn't confuse the African coming in. Look at how it works today. Most Africans coming in or anybody melanated coming in from anywhere, they never lose their identity. They never, even if they born here. I don't care if they second generation, third generation, they never lose their identity. Now, what they do is find a way to become chameleons and blend in with our identity, but they never lose who they are. The only people it confuses are the people who really and truly believe that that is their identity. So why does this make sense? If we truly believe we're African Americans and they're throwing real Africans amongst African Americans, it will confuse you amongst the fold when they're talking about their history and also when you're trying to figure out who is who, because identity is key. I told y'all the first step to freedom is identity. That is your first step to freedom, identity. That's y'all problem. That's our problem. We don't know who we are. Identity. So what I'm saying to you is, regardless of anything, when it comes down to this Martin Delany story, let this be a lesson to you. The enemy is very clever in confusing you with words. Even the people who can read. It's not about you reading 1,000 books. If you can't comprehend and decipher the coding, how this enemy works, you will not understand what he is doing. And this is the gag. Most people can't understand what he's doing because most people would see African American and wouldn't look further. They would automatically assume that he must be a person from America or Black, and they were just calling him African American. That's not the case. The people saying that he a full-blooded African. Let's get into it, y'all. Like the video. Like the video, y'all. Let's get into it. So let's get into Martin Delany. Who was Martin Robinson Delany? He was born May 6, 1812. And he died January 24th, 1885. He was an American abolitionist, journalist, physician, military officer, and writer who was arguably the first proponent of Black nationalism. Now, let me start here first. He was born in 1812. He was also an officer in the military in the early to mid 1800s. Let this be a lesson to y'all. See, they will make y'all believe that black people didn't start becoming officers in the military until what, the 50s with the red tails? That is a lie. We've always held rank in the military because you know why? The military got its style, its fighting, its strategic, all of that stuff from black people indigenous to this here land. FBA freedmen, the Buffalo Soldiers, the Cowboys and Indians, both the Cowboys and the Indians were us. Everything them people got, they got from us. Okay? All identity, all things that you see across this world that's major, especially if it's major, it comes from us. Don't ever forget that. It's not the other way around. The enemy confuses you and tell you this false history about these ancient places, but then when you start peeling back the layers, you realize these ancient places ain't ancient. They just was born about 100 years ago. And then it makes you question, well, then why would you lie and say it was ancient? And people who don't want to dig into that because they don't want to mess with their belief system, they'll chuck it up to, well, maybe that was just the time when they gave it the name. That's people who are afraid to challenge themselves. People like that, I leave off to the side. You stay over there. You are going to muddy my mind. I don't need you over here. I like people who think. I like people who use their mind. Not when they want to use it, when they have to use it. Okay? If you're going to be closed-minded, stay over there. Okay? Now, here go the Africans. So it goes on to say Delany is credited with the Pan-African slogan of Africa for Africans. Now, this is the gag. Around this time, we were not called Africans. In the 1800s, African was not a status. It was not written anywhere to describe the melanated people walking here on this land. But here comes Martin Delany. Here comes a lot of these other people, the AME Church, all these other people throwing Africa on this, Africa on that. You know where else we seen that? Africa Town in the Carolinas. There's a place called Africa Town out there, also in Mobile, Alabama. These people just throwing up the word Africa and putting it on the area, and it's got the people, because they don't do research, really believing that this is something about Africa. And let me show you how crazy media is, but how crazy your people is. Look. Right now, they got real Africans, continental Africans that are here in America that will tell you they Geechee, that will tell you that the people in South Carolina, the Gullah Geechee, and all them other Indian and Indians and indigenous people down there are real African. Not because they have proof, not because they have genealogy, not because they can point to anybody in their family, only because the signs say Africa Town. So here come Martin Delany around a time when no black people are calling themselves African. Why in the hell is he coming up with a slogan called Back to Africa for Africans or Africa for Africans? I'm pretty positive our ancestors was looking around talking about who that nigga talking to. Mind you, we was running Meatball the hell up out of here. Let's really be clear. The mass majority of us did not rock with Meatball, okay? We didn't rock with that nigga. We told him to his plantain eating ass back to Jamaica. And whenever he would think about going to Jamaica, guess what the Jamaicans told his big ass? K your ass over there somewhere with that shit. Meatball got ran from everywhere he went with that bull. Meatball was a snake oil salesman. Okay? And when I'm saying Meatball, I'm talking about Marcus Garvey for the people who don't know. He was a snake oil salesman. The Americans, the black Americans didn't rock with him. He had very few, but you always going to get a very few of anybody. He had very few black Americans who got sold lemons off that boat trip. And then you had hardly none of the people off the islands. They did not rock with them because in their minds, why are these people saying Africa, Africa, Africa? Our ancestors in the 1800s knew good and damn well they were not from Africa. They knew that. You got to keep in mind, this is the early 1800s. This is during slavery. So if you had African ancestry in the 1800s, you would have known it. It would be on paperwork. So how in the hell is they coming up with all this Africa this, Africa that, this Pan-African stuff? I know who it was funded by. We all know who this stuff was funded by. But I'm going back to show you this because I want to show you how that after years and years of that one line, that one mistake, Africa, how it snowballs into actual people right now that will fight you tooth and nail to tell you that we come from Africa. It's little nuggets, bits and pieces, little Africa here, sprinkle a little Africa there. It won't matter now. They not going to pay attention. But see, in about 100 years, we going to reference this Africa stuff and go back and say, see, y'all been African. Look at this monument. See, it say Africa for Africans. And we got a person. Look, his name Martin Delany. Remember him? Oh, you don't remember him. We're going to tell you about him. Well, he came up with a slogan called Africa for Africans. Now, none of us was living in the 1800s. Nobody here was here in the 1800s. So all we got is the white man's word. Unless we do our own research, which most people don't, all we have is the white man's word. So then most people are going to go with the move with what? We must be from Africa. And that's the God's honest truth. There's nothing further from the truth. If you have African ancestry, when you do your genealogy, you will see it. And guess what? You will see it in the names. You will see it in the location. And if somebody say, oh, this person is African, you can go find the ledger from the boat, where it docked, all of that. But watch this enemy and how he will confuse you with just that one word. I told y'all words are powerful. It goes on to say that born as a free person of color in Charlestown, Virginia, now West Virginia, not Charleston, West Virginia, and raised in Chambersburg and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Delany trained as a physician assistant during the cholera epidemics of 1833 and 1854 in Pittsburgh. Delany treated patients, even though many doctors and residents fled the city out of fear of contamination. In this period, people did not know how the disease was transmitted. This is what this gives me. What happens in 2025? Don't they be bringing African doctors in here, exchange? Don't a first generation African couple have a baby and then that baby grow up and be a doctor? Doesn't that happen in 2025? So think about it. A lot of the doctors that are African, a lot of them are first generation, quote unquote, African Americans. But technically, they are not us. So what Martin Delany sounds like is the same thing that's happening today. Listen, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. Now, this is if we are to believe what the enemy is telling us about this whole situation. Okay. Now, according to this, Martin Delany would be a first generation, quote unquote, African American. Because according to the wiki, his parents, both parents, which you can hardly find no information on after that, are African. Let's get into it. It says, Delany was Delany traveled in the South in 1839 to observe slavery firsthand. Beginning in 1847, he worked alongside Frederick Douglass in Rochester, New York, to publish the North Star. In 1850, Delany was one of the first 3 Black men admitted to Harvard Medical School, but all were dismissed after a few weeks because of widespread protests by white students. These experiences convinced Delany that Black people had no future in the United States, leading him instead to the possibility of settling them in Africa. Let me ask y'all a question. How come all the Black people from the North had to come to the South to experience racism? And how come when all these Black people from the North, and I'm only saying Virginia is the North, is because when we talking about like South, dirty South, I'm not saying that it wasn't just as bad as Virginia, but it's looking like him coming from Pittsburgh. He was more of a city boy. You know what I'm saying? More like Ray and Claude off of Life. You know what I'm saying? You know, they from New York City, boss, type T's. So these people are living wonderful lives, but coming down to the South to experience racism and having these epiphanies, this doesn't make any sense. Now, I feel like Martin Delany's whole character is made up. If I'm telling you between me and you, I feel like this whole character thing is made up. However, comma, if we are to go with one of with what Martin Delany is saying, or what they're telling us about Martin Delany, I feel like as it pertains to his story, obviously his story is feeling like others, like what's that boy from Trinidad who came down here? They all got to come and experience it and then have these epiphanies. So apparently where they coming from ain't got that, it ain't that bad. It's them coming down here to see it. And then coming up with, oh, black people in the South. Mind you, I don't live there. I was born there, but I don't live there. Black people in the South, I had to come back to visit, and I realized y'all have it so bad, so the only solution is Africa. Not fight back, not form political power, Africa. And this is why most black Americans don't talk about these people, because they understood that these people were counterproductive to the struggle. Okay? So then it goes on to say, Delany was one of the first 3 black men admitted to Harvard Medical School, but all were dismissed after weeks because of widespread protests by white students. These experiences convinced Delany that black people had no future in the United States, leading him instead to the possibility of settling them in Africa. He visited Liberia, of course. That's where Meatball was going, allegedly. A United States colony founded by the American Colonization Society, and lived in Canada for several years. But when the American Civil War began, he returned to the United States. When the United States colored troops were created in 1863, he recruited for them. Commissioned as a major in February 1865, Delany became the first African-American field grade officer in the United States Army. So this African tether, he's now going to be the first field grade officer. It says, after the Civil War, Delany went to the South, settling in South Carolina. There he worked for the Freemasons Bureau. He was definitely a Mason, and became politically active, including in the colored conventions movement. Delany ran unsuccessfully for lieutenant governor as an independent Republican. Told y'all all the black people was Republican. He was appointed as a trial judge, but was removed following a scandal. He was out there with them hoes. Delany later switched his party affiliation. He worked for the campaign of the Democrat Wayne Hampton III, who won the 1876 election for the governor in a season marked by violent suppression of black Republican voters by red shirt and fraud in balloting. So it seems like he was all black and Republican and tried to run for lieutenant governor. And then when that didn't work out, he switched sides like Trump and was like, F them niggas, I guess, and went on the Democratic side. Now look at what this saying. Delany was born free in Charleston, West Virginia, present-day Charlestown, not Charleston, West Virginia, to Patty and Samuel Delany. Now, when I went to go find or look up Patty and Samuel Delany, I can't hardly find nothing. Every time I run into people like this where I can't find nothing past the character, in my mind, they're fake. The black guy, I forget his name, who started Seneca Valley, I can't find nothing about him past his character and what he did at Seneca Village. In my mind, he doesn't exist. He's fake. I'm not going to go into detail. In my mind, when the information stops, I start to scratch my head. Whenever I come across these people whose story only starts at what we know, you should ask a question. So what am I saying? Like, for instance, if you look up Martin Luther King, they will give you a whole biography. Hell, you look up Rosa, they'll give you a biography on that heifer, from little girl all the way up. But certain characters, their story starts and stops at whatever event the enemy gives you. That's a red flag. Martin Delany, all we got is he was in the military, he studied, he went to college, but everything starts at adult. Red flag. And the fact that I can't find crap to nothing on his mom and daddy, a huge red flag. Then it goes on to say, although his father was enslaved, his mother was a free woman. Under Virginia slave laws, children were considered born into social statuses of their mothers. It's called the Purtus Sequitur Ventrum. I want to look into that because a lot of feminine ideologies that we had was taken from us. That's why us right now are unbalanced, because I'm not gonna go there. But a lot of feminine ideology that really made the world go round, that really helped us and assisted us, was taken from us, and we was given everything man, 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 man. You see what I'm saying? But the reason that's not the case is when you think about the earth, they think of her as a feminine. Mother Earth. Everything starts with the feminine. So, but neither here nor there, because I don't want the Bible thumpers on my back. Anyway, so it goes on to say, under Virginia slave law, children were considered born into social statuses of their mothers. All of Delany's grandparents had been born in Africa, so he's definitely African. His paternal grandparents were of the Mandinka ethnicity. I don't believe that. From modern day Mali. I don't believe that. Taken captive during warfare and bought as slaves to the Virginia colony. Now, remember, they told us when they first got to Virginia, they bought 100 and something slaves from Africa, allegedly. Allegedly. Mind you, why would they need to bring slaves from Africa when it's niggas, seas of niggas? It's so many niggas you could star in a Tarzan movie. Why would you have to go to Africa to bring prisoners of war when you could just pop one of these right here? Think about that. Use your common sense. Put yourself in the mind of the enemy. What would be the purpose of going all the way to Africa, picking up, spending your money, and buying slaves when you could just come here and pop you one right here? Think about that. So it goes on to say his paternal grandparents were Mandinka ethnicity from modern day Mali, taken captive during warfare and bought as slaves to the Virginia colony. That's exactly what happened on this land. When you hear about people coming on and off boats, that's when they were taken captive during wars and shipped away for slavery. It's the same prison system that we have. You get caught, what do? Ship you away to what? Prison. It was the same thing. They didn't have prisons back then. Prison was slavery. Okay? So it goes on to say, family oral history said that their grandfather was a chieftain who had escaped to Canada for a period and died resisting slavery abuses. His mother Patty's parents were born in the Niger Valley, West Africa, and were of Mandinka ethnicity. Her father was said to have been a prince named Yafaye, captured with his brother, Bethret. Is that how you say that? Bethret Fenda, and brought to America as slaves. I am not believing this Prince Hakeem shit. I'm sorry, y'all. I am not believing this Prince Hakeem shit. I'm so tired of these Africans coming here talking about they come from royalty. You motherfuckers ain't come from no royalty because you wouldn't be sitting next to me. You a lie to me. You wouldn't be at the Walmart with me, Mr. Royal. Somebody lying. It goes on to say, and we're not going to go too far in it because I want to read y'all something else. It goes on to say, after some time, their master gave them freedom in Virginia, perhaps based on their noble birth. Yafaye returned to Africa. Gracie stayed on the colony with their only daughter, Patty. When Delany was just a few years old, attempts were made to enslave him and a sibling. Their mother, Patty, carried her two youngest children 20 miles to the courthouse in Winchester to argue successfully for her family's freedom based on her own free birth. Now, let's go back to Martin Delany. So he was born free because his mama was free, not because his daddy was free. And in Virginia at the time, they were going off your mother, which is what they should be going off today. Anyways, so they were going there. He was a free person, born free. However, they give him a name or a status of a people that are from here and not from the continental Africa. Now, as time goes by, and this story is told over and over and over again, not Africans, but Black Americans revere him as one of us, when the fact of the matter is, even if he done great things, he's not. I could look at his eyes and see he's not one of us. I could look at the shape of his head and see he's not one of us. He's not one of us. But the way they write him in history will make you think that he is you and you are he, because they're calling him an African American during a time where they write today that they were called African Americans, because then we were not called, labeled, or statused African American, African nothing. Okay? So this is very dangerous when we're dealing with this. I want to share this part. Now, he ends up getting married, right? Martin Delany. So it says, so let's look at where Martin Delany was in the years between moving to Pennsylvania as a child and marrying Catherine Richards there in 1843. It says an article at PA Civil War 150 states that he moved to Pittsburgh at 19, and attended the free school for African Americans at Bethel Church there. Other sources also place him there in 1831 for schooling. PA Civil War 150 also claims that Delany was a signer of a resolution in support of African American suffrage in Pittsburgh in 1837 and was part of an integrated militia with Mayor Jonas McClintock's in Pittsburgh in the 1830s. So if he's fighting for African Americans at that time, he's not fighting for Black Americans. He's actually fighting for Africans coming from America, because that's not a status for us. Or is it? But it's not, though, I'm telling you. So who is he actually fighting for? And he seems a bit flip-floppy as well. But I don't believe any of this story. I believe this is some stuff they muffled up and put together. Now listen. According to biography.com, Delany traveled through the Midwest down to New Orleans and over to Arkansas, including a visit to the Choctaw Nation before marrying Richards. According to African American Lives, a decision to rescind Black suffrage in Pennsylvania spurred Delany to go to the Mexican part of Texas, where slavery was illegal and Black people could become citizens in 1839. However, as slaveholders moved in, he decided to return to Pennsylvania. You will need to find proof that during his travel south, he came in contact with Dennis Delany's mother, who gave birth in 1836 in South Carolina. All right. It was another part I wanted to read here on here. Hold on. Because this is talking about his genealogy and people trying to find who he is. And it's a whole bunch of speculation. And that's why I'm saying, I feel like they give us these characters, like the whole Harriet Tubman bit, the whole not Frederick Douglass, what's the other boy, Nat Turner bit. I think they give us these characters to give us some glitter of hope, but they wrap it around a whole bunch of lies. Okay, now I'm not saying that these people never existed, even if the people themselves existed. What I'm saying to you is they present it to you like it's something that is not. I'll look for that other but let's get into his Freemasonry ties. Hold on. And I'm starting to learn as I go through my head. I'm starting to learn as it pertains to this whole Freemasonry bit. Just like everything else, the Freemasonry thing was is it here? The Freemasonry thing, what I'm starting to learn is it was infiltrated like everything else. Just like the Black church was infiltrated, all these other things were infiltrated. And when they were infiltrated, they started to be used for bad. You know what I'm saying? And so remember how they say Tookie Williams, is that his name, created the gangs for something else and then it turned into that? I'm starting to believe, don't get me to lying, but I'm starting to believe that it wasn't created for that and then it turned to that. Right, just anticipate, and you can only find one photo. Let me tell you something too. Whenever y'all doing research, and you are finding limited photos of these people, that is a huge red flag, okay? That is a huge red flag, especially if it's the same photo going over and over and over. It's a huge red flag. Don't ever forget that. That's something you could learn about. It was something else I wanted to read, y'all. Hold on. So he a whole African cosplaying as a nigga, marrying a $5 footlong, it sounds like, because they say Choctaw Nation. Okay, this is what I wanted to read, y'all. Let's get into his Pan-African movement. It says, while at school, Delany became politically active. He joined the Abstinence Society, the Philanthropic Society, as well as Black Vigilante Brigade that served to protect the rights of Black communities in Pittsburgh from white attacks. And then it goes on to say, Delany's involvement in Black print culture and his writing career found somewhat solid ground in 1847 when he became an editor for The Mystery, an early Black newspaper. With this endeavor, Martin Delany conveyed his views on writing and print, using The Mystery as a vehicle for defending the rights of Black people. He later became the sole proprietor of the paper due to the financial pressures the paper folded in 1847. After this, Delany worked with Frederick Douglass as an editor for the North Star. In 1849, ideological differences dissolved the partnership between Delany and Douglass. Delany's nationalist philosophy clashed with Douglass' accommodationist outlook, and in 1849, the two parted ways over these differing principles. The following 2 decades saw Delany's growth as a Pan-Africanist and immigrationist. Delany spent a brief period as a student at Harvard University as one of 3 Black students admitted to the medical school. Their presence in the school caused outrage with the white students, and faculty voted to disallow Delany and his fellow Black students to return to school the following year. As the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 worsens tensions within Black communities in the North, Delany became more public with his immigrationist principles. Now, mind you, they're saying immigration with an E, right? So if I want to say, if I'm correct, immigration with the E, that means to go out, right? Instead of come in. Hold on. If I can remember that, immigration. The act of leaving one's country. I listen. I ain't the smartest tool in the toolbox, but I work. Immigrate with an I is to come in. To immigrate with the E is to go out. And that's what it says. Immigration is the act of leaving one's country to settle in another, okay? So he's all about leaving. And this is probably why him and Frederick Douglass bumped heads. Because remember, Frederick Douglass was beefing with W.E.B. Du Bois too. And they was beefing with Meatball. Because all of them felt like, at least, one thing I will give Frederick Douglass and W.E.B. Du Bois. They thought Meatball and Martin Delany was off their goddamn rocker. When they was hollering go back to Africa, W.E.B. Du Bois and Frederick Douglass was like, hell no. Now, mind you, Frederick Douglass was like, why would we go to Africa when we from here? We on our own land. W.E.B. Du Bois was like, well, yeah, we're from Africa, but what do we need to go back for? We can stay here. We can work with the white man. Everything will be fine. Delany started off cool with Frederick Douglass, but if he's talking about immigrating with an E, meaning leave home and go somewhere else, then that is why him and Frederick Douglass kept bumping heads, because that is completely opposite of what he's saying to do. So that's why they bumped heads. And that's probably why him and Meatball was more on the same side, because both of them were running the grip of getting Black Americans to leave where they are and go to Africa. And I'm questioning how many Black people actually went. I don't even think hardly any Black people went out there. I think that's a myth too. I don't think that many Black Americans went to Libya. I don't know. I could be lying. I could be just making this stuff in my head, or I could be getting a download. I don't know. But I don't believe that many Black Americans went to Liberia. I don't believe it. That enemy is so clever and lie about every single thing. I don't believe for 1 second, not even 1% of us went to goddamn Liberia. I just don't believe it. You can't get a nigga to go visit Africa right now, let alone live. Come on now. If niggas ain't going now, and I'm talking about as far as enough to where it make a dent. Come on now. I question that number. But you should too. But he's coming in with this immigrationist stuff. He wants people to leave their country. Mind you, he's not from here. Let's be clear about Martin Delany. Get him up here with his little ugly tail self. Because you need to know about these people when they start to talking. Oh, these were one of our greats. These are one of our greats. No, let's peel back the layers. Is he one of our greats? I'm sorry. Is Martin Delany one of our greats? Martin Delany, even if he done things for black people in America, which I question, even if he has done things, what I want to know about from y'all is, was he one of our greats? He was one of the people telling us to leave our home and go somewhere else. Mind you, he's posing as one of us, but he's not. He's a tether. At this moment, just like today, you see how tethers be posing like niggas? And then when you ask them where their mama from or their daddy from, that's when they get mad. That's the same thing it sounds like Martin Delany was doing. You're not from here. Your people are African. Mandinka tribe, to be exact. Why are you here telling the black people here to leave their homes and go somewhere else? I need you guys to help me understand that. Ask yourself that question. What would he get out of telling the people from a land that they not from there and they need to pack up their stuff and go somewhere else? That is not a friend of the people. It's just not. That's why I don't do meatball. Anybody who is telling my people to get up off their land and go somewhere else are not a friend to my people. Mind you, he ain't one of us. He all skin folk, how they say? All skin folk ain't kin folk. And on top of that, where my little thing at? He ain't even from Acorn. So there's that. So we got this person, this impersonator, this tether, coming over here telling us, hey, y'all need to go to Africa. It's lit, Liberia to be exact. And he's cosplaying like one of us, but he ain't one of us. He ain't even from Acorn.
He ain't even from Acorn.
And this is why you need to be asking yourself, who are these black people that walk amongst you today? Who are these black people in these leadership roles today? Who they mama them? Because all you looking at is melanin, and that's all you starting and stopping at. Who is they mama them? Who is really guiding you? Now, he goes down, Martin Delany is the first African-American major or officer in the army. He helped fight for black rights. I'm starting to wonder, was it real black rights? If all of this is real, what did he fight for? Whose black rights? Because right now, I don't know not one African that fight for niggas. You start to name one. I'll wait. Show me one African in 2025 that fight for niggas, and I'll wait. So if all of this is true about what they saying about Martin Delany, who was he fighting for? I'm trying to see something. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. So Martin Delany ain't had shit to do with us, in my opinion. Nigga said LCK. Kiana, I would kill. Nigga said Martin Delany was fighting for LCK. I'm not doing that. I am not. But mind you, he's a Freemason, okay? Hey, man, y'all is crazy. Nigga said LCK. Man, watch out. Oh, poor LC. I'm LCK. And now I don't know how to fight, but at least I get in the paint. Girl, bye. Hold on, y'all. Now, let's go look at this video we got. Let's get on Martin Delany. And let me tell you something. It's kind of an exposed thing. And the reason why I like to do this exposed history is because we need to wake up, man. We need to start looking around. It's been too many lies, too many games played around us, and we don't have no allies, bro. Black America, we don't have no allies. I told y'all it's like one big joke and everybody's in on the joke except us. We ain't got no allies. The history, his story that he give us is capped. They give you a tiny bit of truth and wrap it up with a whole bunch of beautiful lies. And then we read it and then go back and regurgitate. Nobody does any investigation. Let's get into it. Y'all like the video?
Do you know this man? He was the first known black doctor in Pittsburgh. He published the very first abolitionist newspaper west of the Allegheny.
Now, I want to pause him right here. I don't like that he was known as the first black doctor in Pittsburgh, because that implies that he's one of us. And I'm pretty positive a nigga was doing some medical work before Martin Delany showed up. Because remember, medical, engineering, STEM, all of that stuff comes from us. That's why the first light was done by us. That's why the first heart surgeon was done by us. That's why we create the internet and in the web. All of this comes from us. So you're not about to tell me some African came over here and outpaced the people who it came from. You see what I'm saying? So I don't like they call him the first black doctor, because I know that's cap. If this is true, I know that that's cap. And that's another thing. We didn't have babies at hospitals. Hardly anybody. Them white people was doing that. We had our babies at the house, in the bike. We didn't hardly go to hospitals. Remember, you see it in the movies all the time. The doctors made house calls. Hello? That's why when you think about old history, you will hear about the old people dying at home in their bed. Hello? They didn't have what they call it, with the war where they be having all the dead bodies. That's new. They didn't have that back then. You used to have to bury your own dead. Your person died in your house, you gotta bury him. Your wife pregnant, you gotta bring that baby in here. You catch a heart attack and about to die, guess where you about to have surgery at? If they can't do what they gotta do, right there in your bed at home. Guess what the doctor's gonna do? Bring all his stuff to your house and open up your chest, if that's what he gotta do. This is what we was doing before the Africans came. This is what we was doing before the white boy came. This is what we were doing before all them other people, all them other melanated people came. We was already doing that. So how is he the first black doctor in Pittsburgh? Make it make sense. And I told y'all before, the only thing took us out of midwifery, I told y'all in the early 1900s, the law made it illegal for us to be midwives. You know that, right? They made it illegal. They shut down all black schools. We had real schools that taught black women how to be midwives. Most of them it was in your blood. It was how your blood. So if you were with midwife, your mama was a midwife, her mama was a midwife, her mama was a midwife. You see what I'm saying? So what happened was the law didn't like that they couldn't have our bodies and our babies in their hands. So they made it illegal for us to deliver babies at home. Literally illegal. They forced us into the doggone hospitals and then turned over and made the white people midwives and told us it was illegal to practice or at least to give birth to your babies at your house. That's what pulled us out the house. The law. Because at first they were trying to shame us and say, oh, too many babies are dying doing home births. But the fact of the matter is that was the lie. More babies was dying under the white folks than under us. Our birth rates were successful under the midwives. Our birth rates was very successful under those midwives. Extremely successful. You want to know why the maternal death rate is the way it is? It's because of where you at and who doing it. It was the law that took us out of our midwives and took us out of our house from having our babies. Look at the movies. Read the books. It tells you. So I don't know how this African come here and be the first doctor. Make it make sense. Because if that was the case, the first pediatricians and doctors were black women. Were we not delivering babies? Wouldn't that make us pediatricians when they get sick? Were we not the ones coming over? Well, was it not mama curing the churn? Think about it. So by definition, black women were the first pediatricians. We were the first to deliver babies. They just put a name on it and a title. But that stuff we were already doing. But he the first black doctor. Gotcha. These people is a mess. And he ain't one of us.
Before becoming co-editor of Frederick Douglass's North Star. He was accepted into Harvard Medical School by Dr. Oliver Wendell Holmes himself. He led an expedition in Africa. He was commissioned by President Abraham Lincoln to the rank of Major, making him the highest-ranking black man to serve in the Union Army during the entire Civil War. He came to be known as the father of black nationalism. Before Malcolm X, before Marcus Garvey, before W.E.B. Du Bois, there was Martin Robeson Delany. Why don't we know about this man? It's time we found out about him and a myriad of other incredible African Americans and their impact on the history of America and the world. I'm Wally Jamal, and this is History's Flip Side. Doctor, abolitionist, newspaperman, historian, educator, African explorer, politician, poet, journalist, scientist, Civil War commander. Martin Robeson Delany was all these things and more. His accomplishments were immense, to some extent unbelievable. But what was most unbelievable about this man is that his achievements went completely ignored by the mainstream history books and the public at large. Until now. Hi.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh at the brother. It's just that when he put the trophy on the shelf and he turned it back and went, hi. It reminded me of them 90s sitcoms. Like Full House or something. I don't know. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry.
Welcome to History's Flip Side. I'm Wally Jamal. In Pittsburgh in 1843, Martin Delany established himself as the journalist when he started the very first black newspaper west of the Alleghenies, The Mystery. In that newspaper, he advertised his doctoring services as well as reporting on significant anti-slavery events at the time. Martin lost his newspaper in 1847 after he was sued for libel for blowing the whistle on a man named Thomas Fiddler Johnson for assisting slave catchers in the kidnapping of free blacks in the North and selling them into slavery in the South. Thomas Fiddler Johnson won the libel suit and was awarded enough money to bankrupt Martin Delany and his newspaper. The judge in the case was known to be a Southern sympathizer who insisted that it was unthinkable that a black man would assist in the kidnapping of other blacks, even for money. Martin and his newspaper were punished for printing the truth. Shortly after that, Frederick Douglass traveled to Pittsburgh to find Martin Delany and retain his newspaper expertise to help him start his new enterprise, a periodical that would come to be known as the North Star. Martin served as co-editor on that paper until 1849. In 1850, the new fugitive slave law that went into effect increased the number of blacks being kidnapped and driven into slavery in the South by the thousands. Chaos ensued. After speaking out against the new law at various conventions and rallies, Martin decided to gather a stack of letters of endorsement from the most prominent doctors in Pittsburgh, to include Doctors Joseph P. Gasm and Francis J. Lemoyne,
and he traveled to Boston to attend Harvard University to earn a medical degree. But at this time in America, if you were a black man and you were actually accepted into a major college or university, it was already predisposed that you would sign an agreement swearing that after earning your degree, you would only practice your chosen profession in Liberia.
You see, in 1817, prominent wealthy whites from the northern and southern states got together and agreed that something must be done about the free blacks of the country. The slave-owning Southerners complained that the free blacks were a bad influence on their slaves for not scraping to whites and
Now pause. Look at the way these black people dress. Hold on, let me back this up a little bit. Hold on. Look at the way these black people are dressed. This is in the early mid 1800s. This is full-blown, full-on slavery. These people got money. These ain't no po niggas here. Look at these people. Look at their outfits. Think about it. Put yourself in the mind of being back then. These people have on layers of clothes. These people got coin. These ain't no po niggas. These ain't no hood niggas. These ain't no middle-aged, middle-class niggas. These people got money. Status is written all over their face and all over their bodies. Mind you, this is during a time that I was of the belief that the black people during this time, especially in the South, we were all slaves getting whipped on our backs, trying to learn how to read and escape with Harriet Tubman. This some well-to-do Negroes. But what did I tell you? There's nothing new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. If they have rich black people today, middle class black Americans today, and poor black Americans today, then guess what they had back then? Rich black Americans, middle class black Americans, and poor black Americans. Right? If we are to believe that history repeats itself, then that would mean that if we are put that time frame, or we were to put that situation in today's time frame, it would be equivalent to I would say middle class to high class black family versus a black family out the hood. Take slavery out the picture. It would be like putting a high to middle class to high class black family and putting them next to the hood black family and saying that they all had the same struggles. That's what history wanted us to believe. They gave us one big blanket slavery story over black people during the time, but they not telling you that that wasn't the case. It wasn't a whole, first of all, when y'all do y'all genealogy, you're going to find that a lot of y'all didn't come from slaves. Now, you have some slavery in your genealogy, but you're going to find it's not as prominent as you thought. Why? Not because it was bad, not because you're not a slave, which is a good thing. It's because you didn't come from really horribly to do people. Remember, you are the first on this land. You're the first doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs. You're the first everything. These white folks coming in here and learning from you. So by that logic and by that common sense, that would tell me that the black people who are already here, they had to have the status first. Remember, these are Slavic white people coming off a boat. They had to come and take it from the people who already had it. So when you see well-to-do dressed black people in the later days or the past, or you see, this black surgeon and all this stuff, these aren't anomalies. This is regular black people, just like today. Just like today you see a black doctor, that ain't no anomaly, just like it wasn't then. Everything that you see today has already happened in the past. If you understand the present and overstand the past, the future literally falls in your lap like it's a fucking You don't, that's how, if you want to know the key, I tell y'all this about being a psychic. It's not about predicting, because you don't have to predict anything. It's not that easy. It's not that hard. Predicting the future is not about guessing. It's just about paying attention to what you see now. These wasn't no po niggas. They descendants running around here right now and probably don't know what the hell going on, because they probably don't know their genealogy. Hopefully they do, but they got more black families just like this. But they trying to make it seem like it was just a whole bunch of po niggas, and these ain't none of these black people right here, po. And look at the way their hair done. Look at the hair. Miss Mama just left the salon. Don't play with her. Stop acting crazy, huh? Don't play with her. She got that goddamn bustle tight, so tight around her waist, she can't breathe, but it don't matter. I gotta snap this picture. She just got sprayed out the chair. And she picked out her outfit. What is your, come on, man. These ain't no po niggas. So then why wouldn't they tell us about the well-to-do niggas? Ask yourself that question. It's because they want you to think that you're a slave. It's about enslaving your mind. Yeah, the men are well-groomed too. These ain't no po-ass niggas. And look at the headpiece on these ladies' heads. Look at the head. I don't know if that's her hair. It looks like a hat. I know that's her hair. Oh, I wish I could. I'm a screenshot this so I can update it, so I can upload it. Girl, that's the baby bangs. Y'all know how we be doing the baby bangs today? Like the baby boops? That's what I love, man. Listen. That's her hair. She got her hair in a ponytail. Yeah, that's her baby boop, baby bangs. Man, these ain't no po-ass niggas, man. Watch out. And listen, we been doing edges. We ain't just jumped off the porch doing no edges. We been doing edges. You see them? Stop acting crazy. Everybody in the world doing edges because of who? Stop acting crazy. And I know they went out to eat and had a good time after this picture.
That the free blacks were a bad influence on their slaves for not scraping to whites and actually walking erect and fully clothed. And great measures were taken to prevent a slave from ever seeing a black person read. Conversely, the northern whites didn't mind having the free blacks around as long as they were in strictly servile positions in the community. But there always loomed the idea on the black people's part of further elevation, of sharing schools, social gatherings, and heaven forbid, sharing their religious institutions. Taking all these feelings into account, they decided that slavery and black servitude in general must go on unabated. Henry Clay and some of his associates drafted the first documents of the newly formed American Colonization Society.
Now let's pause. Look who formed now the American Colonization Society. This is what is going to create their Back to Africa movements. So you got all these clear men creating the American or African. Did they say American or African? The Colonization Society. Either way, these are the societies that are going to govern these Back to Africa movements. Look who's behind these Africa movements.
Servitude in general must go on unabated. Henry Clay and some of his associates drafted the first documents of the newly formed American Colonization Society.
Yep.
They put their monies together, North and South, went to Africa, bought a considerable patch of land, and named it Liberia.
Now pause. These white people coming from another land, we already here. They come here, settle, get their status up, and then go to Africa to come back and tell us, we got some land for y'all. Y'all go over there. Mind you, that's almost like today if a white person came from Europe right now and in 10 years came back and told Black Americans, we found some land in Africa for y'all. Y'all gather y'all things. Y'all can come over to Africa. We'll be like, man, if you don't get that white boy out of our face, that's exactly what it is.
Established in 1822 with its capital, Monrovia, named after the sitting American president, James Monroe. James Monroe was the 5th president of the United States. who was most famous for his Monroe Doctrine, which essentially stated that it would be taken as an unfriendly act to tamper or interfere with any United States ship in the midst of its commerce. Its main import from overseas was people. Having that established, we can join Martin Delany back at Harvard. He was seated directly across from the Dean of Medical Studies, Dr. Oliver Wendell Holmes. The two men sat, eyeing each other, with Dr. Holmes drumming his fingers atop the stack of letters of recommendation from the prominent doctors of Pittsburgh. Letters from white doctors describing Martin as, quote, an upright and intelligent man of unexceptionable moral and religious character. He is a man of considerable intellectual power and of great and preserving energy. He is entitled to the consideration of good men. Just 2 weeks prior to Martin's arrival, they had admitted two other men of color, Daniel Lang and Isaac Snowden. However, they had agreed to practice only in Liberia. Finally, Dr. Holmes spoke. Will you go to Liberia? Martin quietly shook his head no. Holmes reportedly took no stand for
or... I'll be damned, Martin. How the hell you don't want to go back to where you from? You is an African. You can never get the Africans to go back to Africa. But yet they be over here telling us to go back to Africa. Now the white boy asked Martin, will you go to Liberia? And Martin told him, hell no. Mind you, after this, Martin is going to go back and tell all the niggas to go to Africa. Make it make sense. The white boy sat across the table from Martin and said, hey, Martin, are you willing to go back to Africa? Martin said, hell no. I tell them niggas to go. I ain't going nowhere. You can, to this day, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. Right now, tell an African they're going to go back to Africa and watch what happens. Same thing Martin did. Hell no. The Africans that come to America and rather tell you that you African than to go back. Make it make sense. You see the grift? You see it? You get it?
Against slavery. But Boston at this time was heavily divided on the subject, with the new Fugitive Slave Act becoming the law of the land. Holmes had colleagues on one side who would chide him for accepting Martin, and on the other side for denying him. Impressed with his stack of endorsements and disturbed by his determined, unblinking gaze, Dr. Holmes announced, the fee for the course of lectures is $80. Tickets for the dissecting room are $5, and there's a $3 fee for matriculation, payable to me. Martin paid his fees and attended his classes. As time went by, the growing consternation among the white students had come to a head. They had a meeting without inviting the three black students and wrote up their agreed-upon resolutions. They read as follows. Whereas blacks have been admitted to the lectures of the medical department of Harvard University, therefore, resolved that we deem the admission of blacks to the medical lectures highly detrimental to the interest and welfare of the institution of which we are members, calculated alike to lower its reputation in this and other parts of the country, to lessen the value of a diploma from it, and to diminish the number of its students. Resolved that we cannot consent to be identified as fellow students with blacks, whose company we would not keep in the streets, and whose society as associates we would not tolerate in our houses. Resolved that we feel our grievances to be but the beginning of an evil, which, if not checked, will increase, and that the number of respectable white students will, in future, be in an inverse ratio to that of blacks. Resolved that we earnestly request the medical faculty of the university to listen to this, our remonstrance against the presence of such persons, and spare us the necessity of being in such company, or of compelling us to complete our medical studies.
What I don't understand is why was we, and listen, I know what happened. I know exactly what happened. They use figureheads like Martin Delany, like Meatball, and all these people to start up the thing. It's like the slow clap. Put a 3 in the chat if you've ever heard the slow clap effect. The slow clap effect is, it's like y'all ever seen on a movie, especially with white people. Like somebody's on stage and it'll start and it'll go. And once the one person do that, guess what everybody else do? And then before you know it, you got a whole standing ovation. Everybody, ah! That's the clap effect, right? Well, that's what I'm going to call it, the clap effect. This is what the enemy did. They got one person to start the slow clap. That's Martin Delany. They still doing it to this day. They do it with celebrities all the time. They get one person to start the slow clap because what they understand is the masses of people are sheep. So for instance, I'll use Martin Luther King for example. Prior to Martin Luther King talking about his dream, Black people had no aspirations to integrate with white folks. Prior to Martin Luther King bringing up his dream, Black Americans had zero freaking want or need to be amongst white folks. We didn't have to. It wasn't until Martin came with his dream that we thought about, oh snap, he right. This is the same thing. Martin Delany and a lot of these other characters these were the clap starters, the slow clap starters. They the ones that they send out to start the slow clap, and then they watch all the other people follow suit. So what I'm trying to figure out is when it comes down to these schools, if we are the first doctors, because we taught them how to deliver babies. So if we taught them how to deliver babies and we were the first open heart surgeons, that means we taught them how to be doctors. But this is what the enemy did. I just figured it out. They went and got these tethers or these undercover FBA traders and used them to be the slow clap to get the masses to join. That's what they did. They did much better with tethers because tethers are easily to control. You see what I'm saying? They're not from here. Or at least you got something over their head. All they do is get one person to start the slow clap effect and watch everybody fall back because there's no reason why Black Americans had to go to them white folks for anything that pertains to medicine because we were the ones doing it. We would have no reason to want to be up under their school. As a matter of fact, they should have wanted to come to our school. Think about it. So it's the slow clap effect. You get a tether or FBA actor to come in here and start the slow clap and watch them all follow suit. It just dawned on me.
Swear. Resolved that a copy of these resolutions be presented to the medical faculty. And finally, resolved that we have no objection to the education and elevation of Blacks, but do decidedly remonstrate against their presence in college with us. The protest resulted in the expulsion of the Black students and one white female student, Harriet Kezia Hunt. Undaunted, Martin went back to Pittsburgh, and shortly after his arrival home, he left immediately for New York City. He had devised plans for a mobile engine for trains and went to obtain a patent. Upon arrival, he found out that only American citizens could obtain a patent. Thus,
So he's not even an American citizen? So wait a minute. Rewind again. I want to make sure I heard it right.
he left immediately for New York City. He had devised plans for a mobile engine for trains and went to obtain a patent. Upon arrival, he found out that only American citizens could obtain a patent, thus barring him from yet another benefit promised to those born on American soil.
More evidence that he was the cosplaying tether that I said he was. This fool ain't even an American citizen. You got to keep in mind, this is at the very beginning stages of America. So right now, it was promises. It was, I'm getting thick and tired of your broken promises. Oh, your mama and daddy had you in Virginia. We gonna make you a citizen. Stay right there. So this nigga walking around in limbo. He's an illegal alien. An illegal alien. Mind you, he's not a citizen, but he's a major in the military. To this day, foreigners are in the military that are not United States citizens. So he was able to create a mobile engine for trains and couldn't even get a patent because you ain't even a citizen. They didn't have to ask that fool to go to Liberia. All they had to do was put him on the boat and tell him, get your ugly ass over there. He ain't even a citizen.
Fed up with the hypocrisy and convinced that it was never going to change, Martin sat in his New York boarding room and wrote a book that would expose all the misrepresentations, deception, and systematic subjugation of the colored people of the United States. He wrote, "The Condition, Elevation, Emigration, and Destiny of the Colored People of the United States, Politically Considered."
You weren't playing about that immigration.
It was a long but fitting title of the book that would bring to light a look at North American slavery and the proscription of other groups of people as it has occurred in Europe and the comparative condition of the free colored people of America. It covers the deeds, ingenuity, and bravery that should have earned Blacks their freedom and citizenship. The book states that the way Blacks were treated was never going to change, and that we should devise a plan to leave this country for good.
That's what Meatball said. Hey, it ain't gonna get better. Y'all want to just get on the boat and go to Africa? What our ancestors said. Boy, if you don't get your stupid looking ass from over here, boy, if you don't get your duck ass. I know my ancestor probably was like, man, somebody will get this fat ass nigga from over here, man. Especially the men in the women in my family. Psh, if they anything like the ones I see now, I can hit my people. Hey, it's not gonna work out for us on American soil. Why don't we just go to Africa? Who this fat ass, ugly ass nigga? Boy, if you don't get your stupid looking, boy, if you don't go sit your small head ass down. I can see the men in my family. Who this nigga is? Who he came with? Y'all know this nigga? Look, y'all know this nigga? Say, bro, who you know here? You know somebody over here? I'm pretty positive it was most of our family like, man, somebody don't get this stupid looking ass boy from around here. I told y'all they booed him at Meatball. I told you he tried to do a doggone a speech and they was damn near throwing tomatoes at him. Listen, man, our ancestors didn't play like that.
The Condition, Elevation, Emigration, and Destiny of the Colored People of the United States, Politically.
This one right here. Nigga, this my daddy house. I've been running things since I was 15. Could you imagine Martin, Delany, and Meatball? Hey, y'all, we gotta leave. We gotta go to Africa. It's not gonna get better. This me. Nigga, this my daddy house. Nigga, I've been running shit since here since I was about 15. Nigga, this my daddy house.
Considered by Martin Robeson Delany. Published 1852. Read by actor Waleed Jamal. Sincerely dedicated to the American people, North and South, by their most devout and patriotic fellow citizen, the author. The author of this little volume has no other apology for offering it to the public than the hurried manner in which it has been composed. Being detained in the city of New York on business, he seized the opportunity of a tedious delay and wrote the work in the inside of 1 month, attending to other business through the day and lecturing on physiology sometimes in the evening. The reader will therefore not entertain the idea of elegance of language and terseness of style, such as should rule the sentences of every composition by whomsoever written. His sole object has been to place before the public in general, and the colored people of the United States in particular, great truths concerning this class of citizens, which appears to have been heretofore avoided, as well by friends as enemies to their elevation, by opponents to conceal information that they are well aware would stimulate and impel them on to bold and adventurous deeds of manly daring, and by friends who seem to have acted on the principle of the zealous orthodox, who would prefer losing the object of his pursuit to changing his policy. There are also a great many colored people in the United States who have independence of spirit, who desire to and do think for themselves. But for the want of general information and in consequence of a prevailing opinion that has
Hey, there was some well-to-do black men on that picture now. Them was some well-to-do black men. Look, not this one, them two.
And do think for themselves. But for the want of general information and
look at this picture. These ain't no poor niggas. They ain't rich, but they ain't poor. These about middle class here. These about middle class right here. These educated niggas. This some middle class niggas right here, at least. Where are these poor niggas? Every time we see the poor niggas, we see sketches. But every time it's time to see the nice looking niggas, we see pictures. Y'all ain't never noticed that? Every time we see the slaves, it's got to be a sketch. But every time we show us a photo, if it ain't niggas from a far off distance on the plantation, the niggas always look kind of decent. Am I the only one to pick that up? Like, why we can't find the pictures of the niggas getting beat with the thing like we could? Let's move on.
In consequence of a prevailing opinion that has obtained that no thoughts nor opinions must be expressed, even though it would eventuate in their elevation, except it emanate from some old orthodox stereotype doctrine concerning them. Therefore, such a work as this, which is but a mere introduction to what will henceforth emanate from the pen of colored men and women, appeared to be in most anxious demand in order to settle their minds entirely and concentrate them upon an...
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I want to find this comment for the young lady who said that, because you are absolutely right, and I didn't think about it until you said it. The poor people didn't even have money to take pictures. And that's a Fendi. That's a fact. So if you was on a photo, you had status and or money. Because you had to have money. Remember, of camera during this time, put a 3 in the chat if you're old enough to remember when cell phones became handy for everybody to have. Not the first cell phone with the briefcase, but let's just talk about let's go with the first cell phone. When the first cell phones came out, only rich people or people who had money or status had them. The average person did not have a cell phone. The average person didn't have a phone in the car. Y'all remember in the 90s, back in the old days, in them old cars, they used to have the car phone. Remember the briefcase phone? Unless you was a drug dealer or rich, everybody didn't have it. That was the same thing with the photos and the camera. You are absolutely right, Nine. She's right. If you had money, you had photos. If you were poor, you didn't have any photos. Not saying that photos were never taken of you, but you had to have money. You see what I'm saying? That made so much sense. You absolutely right. So you hardly gonna see, especially if it's some sort of family photo, and that makes sense why my girl had her Betty Boop sideburns, why she had her baby bangs done, and why my girl was sitting on the corner like this with her bustier up and her titties sitting up. So when her nigga see her picture, because I could tell, I saw on her face, she set that thing up and arched that back so that booty could sit out a little bit. So when, her man come over, her crush, her suitor, and he see her on the corner like this, he'll know what's up. You see what I'm saying? Listen, I don't have to be in a time frame. I just know. I just know what I would do if I was there. Yes, tighten up the bustier. I don't need to breathe. Tighten it. I want to sit on the corner like this. Put the boobs up under my chin. I want it on the corner like this. Yeah, because bitch, this the family picture. What you saying? This the family photo, girl. What is you saying?
Effective and specific course of procedure. We have never conformed with that class of philosophers who would keep the people in ignorance, lest they might change their opinion from former predilections. This we shall never do, except pressing necessity demands it, and then only as a measure to prevent bad consequences for the time. The colored people of today are not the colored people of a quarter century ago, and require very different means and measures to satisfy their wants and demands and to effect their advancement. No wise statesman presumes the same measures for the satisfaction of the American people now that may have been with propriety adopted 25 years ago. Neither is it wisdom to presume that the privileges which satisfied colored people 20 years ago, they will be reconciled with now. That with which the father of the writer may have been satisfied, even up to the present day, the writer cannot be content with. The one lived in times antecedent to the birth of the other. That which answered then does not answer now. So is it with the whole class of colored people in the United States. Their feelings, tastes, predilections, wants.
Now this will be, looks like to me, will be a lower class Black family. And you can see the distinct difference. Look at the clothes. Look at the quality of clothes. Look at the way they are dressed, okay? And you can tell this isn't a family photo. Somebody somewhere had a camera and say, can I take a picture of y'all, all the whole family? And they say, all right, y'all, come on, get around. And they sat there and took that picture. This ain't no family photo. You have just we saw high-class Negroes, we saw middle-class Negroes, and here are the poor Negroes. Mind you, this is during a time either on the tail end of slavery or either right after it. So even some poor Negroes were free. But you can tell in these photos, they didn't solicit this picture. Whatever newspaper or whoever, you see what I'm saying? Yeah, I am Jay, to keep track. Absolutely. And also to do what they're doing right now. To rewrite the history. Because they could take this photo and tell y'all these are slaves. And guess what most people are going to say? Oh my God, they're slaves. I see them do it all the time. They'll get plantation workers from back in the day and say these are ex-slaves, and people just eat it up. Nobody go to look to see if they really were slaves, when the fact of the matter is they don't have no interviews from no goddamn slaves, fool. That's plantation workers telling you about the harsh conditions under the job working as a plantation worker. Okay? But they will put it to you like it was a slave because most people won't check into it. But I'm saying to you, we saw 3 different classes of Black people. Some of the poor Blacks were not slaves.
Demands and sympathies are identical and homogeneous with those of all other Americans. Fleecy locks and black complexions cannot alter nature's claim. Skins may differ, but affections dwell in black and white the same. Many of the distinguished characters referred to in this work, who lived in former days for which there is no credit given, have been obtained from various sources as fragments.
I'm not about to let him slide with this haircut. Go back. I'm not about to let him slide.
Same. Many of the distinguished characters referred to in this work, who lived in.
Y'all remember the haircut, the Gumby? Am I too old? Y'all remember the it wasn't a cartoon, the TV show Gumby? Well, in the 90s, they used to have a haircut called the Gumby. That's what I used to call it. But basically, it was one side, it go up like a Eiffel Tower or something. It's a fade, but one side be lower, then the other side go high. Ain't that what we looking at right now? Bobby Brown had it. Yeah, Bobby Brown had it. He used to have a little part in his. Ain't that the same damn thing almost what we looking like now? Either one side of his hair fell off, or he cut it like that. I want to go out on a limb and say he cut it like that. I don't believe he shaped his bush and shaped it like that. I feel like he did that on purpose. Because remember, nothing new is under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. I feel like he did that on purpose. I'm telling you, listen, the hairstyles that we have, we've always had. I'm telling you, I feel like he got it. That's the hairstyle.
Former days, for which there is no credit given, have been obtained from various sources as fragments of history, pamphlets, files of newspapers, obsolete American history, and some from Mrs. Child's collection. Those of modern day are living facts known to the writer in his travels through the United States, having been from Canada and Maine to Arkansas and Texas. The origin of the breastworks of cotton bales on Chalmette Plain at the Battle of New Orleans. The writer learned in that city from old colored men in 1840 and subsequently from other sources, as well as much useful information concerning that battle from Julian Benoit, spoken of in the work. He has before referred to it some 5 or 6 years ago through the columns of a paper of which he was then editor, and not until subsequently to his narrating the same facts in these columns was he aware that it was ever mentioned in print when he saw, on the 3rd day of March, on looking over the contributions of the Liberty Bell, a beautiful annual of
3 with my numerology people. Hey, I'm starting to get more into these numbers, man, because these numbers, March 3rd, 3-3. I forget what year he said, but 3-3.
Boston, the circumstances referred to by David Lee Child, Esquire, the particulars of which will be found in our version. The original intention was to make this a pamphlet of a few pages, the writer commencing with that view, but finding that he could not thus justify the design of the work, will fully explain the cause of its present volume. The subject of this work is one that the writer has given thought for years, and the only regret that he has now in placing it before the public is
he do look like Lamar from BMF. He do. That might be his grandpa. Let me tell you something about these bloodlines. If you want to know the truth, a lot of the people in position today, that's because they're of their bloodline. That's a whole other lie. But a lot of y'all people y'all see today, they there because of who they are. They bloodline. That bloodline shit run real deep. That might be his grandson. Quiet as it's kept. That motherfucker might be in his bloodline. Because for real, it really be something like you was an abolitionist in the 1700s or 1800s, and now you your great grandson a major superstar. It really be like that. Real talk. It really be some bloodline stuff. For real.
that his circumstances and engagements have not afforded him such time and opportunity as to do justice to it. But should he succeed in turning the attention of the colored people in general in this direction, he shall have amply compensated for the labor bestowed. An appendix will be found giving the plan of the author, laid out at 24 years of age, but subsequently improved on for the elevation of the colored race. That plan, of course, as this work will fully show, has been abandoned for a far more glorious one, albeit we as a race still lay claim to the project, which one day must be added to our dashing strides in national advancement, successful adventure, and unsurpassed enterprise. One part of the American people, though living in near proximity and together, are quite unacquainted with the other. And one of the great objects of the author is to make each acquainted. Except the character of an individual is known, there can be no just appreciation of his worth. And as with individuals, so is it with classes. The colored people are not yet known, even to their most professed friends among the white Americans, for the reason that politicians, religionists, colonizationists, and abolitionists have each and all at different times presumed to think for, dictate to, and know better what suited colored people than they knew for themselves, and consequently, there has been no other knowledge of them obtained than that which has been obtained through these mediums. Their history, past, present, and future, has been written by them, who, for reasons well known, which are named in this volume, are not their representatives, and therefore do not properly nor fairly present their wants and claims among their fellows. Of these impressions, we design disabusing the public mind and correcting the false impressions of all classes upon this great subject. A moral and mental is as obnoxious as a physical servitude, and not to be tolerated, as the one may eventually lead to the other. Of these we feel the direful effects. If I'm designed your lordling slave, by nature's law designed, why was an independent wish e'er planted in my mind? Chapter 1. Condition of
That's a deep statement. Do y'all understand what that means, what he just said? If I'm designed by your Lord, if I'm designed your lording slave by nature's law design, meaning if you are to say that I am a slave according to the white boy's law,
design.
Why was an independent wish air planted in my mind? Listen, this is freaking major. This right here is major. What he is saying in layman terms, let me bring this up to 2025. What he's saying is, if I'm a black man and you believe that I'm a slave by your law, then why does my mind tell me that I'm not? If you telling me that I'm a slave because your law states that I am a slave, why does my mind tell me something different? This is what they're saying in layman terms, in 2025 terms. So with that being said, remember I told you the enemy said that they had to enslave what? Our minds. If you enslave the mind, the body will follow. But in this situation, he's saying your law, your white boy law say I'm a slave, but my mind telling me different. Now, that was what some of people, black people thought back then. 2025, telling the same black person that same thing, they would literally try to claw your eyes out. If I go to black people in 2025 and say, hey, you're not a slave, it's all in your mind, I literally have to protect myself from people. They want to fight me for telling them that. They literally want to fight me, like literally harm me. People want to harm me for telling them that this was all in your mind. That's how far gone we are. At least then, the brain was still able to independently think to a level on its own. Remember, they just showed you the white boy had to take over our mind and do what? Think for us. Tell us what we need. Right? So we went from having some sort of an independent thought to now we so far gone past even an independent thought. The idea, just the idea that your brain is powerful, make black people want to literally take your head off your shoulders. Look at how far we've come in less than 300 years. That is insane.
Why was an independent wish e'er planted in my mind? Chapter 1. Condition of many classes in Europe considered. That there have been in all ages and in all countries, in every quarter of the habitable globe, especially among those nations laying the greatest claim to civilization and enlightenment, classes of people who have been deprived of equal privileges, political, religious, and social, cannot be denied, and that this deprivation on the part of the ruling class is cruel and unjust is also equally true. Such classes have even been looked upon as inferior to their oppressors and have ever been mainly the domestics and menials of society, doing the low offices and drudgery of those among whom they lived.
These are the poor whites that the whites who came and founded America wanted nothing to do with. These are the poor whites that came in off the boat from Ellis Island. These are the Slavic poor whites that when they came here, the whites who were already here decided they wanted to delineate. They said, we don't want them to have the status of white because they're different. They're not like us. Ew, they're slaves. Look at them. This is what the white people were saying about the other white people. Now, they didn't care if they had better status over niggas. That they didn't care about. What they cared about is them whites coming off that boat, they can't have the same status as us. This is the white people that were already here. The reason being is because where are they getting these white people from? These white people that are coming to America with this great glorious status and taking over all these black institutions are poor, piss poor, pissy dog leg white trash. These are your governors, mayors, judges, lawyers, doctors, these piss poor, no shade, but these piss poor, dog tongue kissing ass white folks. These are the people that they putting in charge of the black people that are here. And mind you, they coming here creating a whole new mindset with their brand new status and treating niggas like they nothing. And we, being indigenous to this land and being afraid because our mind is completely taken over, now we looking at these Slavic, nothing, trash white folks who would literally not even be worthy to serve us at our best. Now we looking at them as if they hold a higher superiority rank. And these are the same people y'all call white supremacists. I would never call these crackers no white supremacists. Ain't nothing supreme about these crackers. Are you insane? Ain't nothing supreme about these Blackfoot crackers. Ain't nothing supreme about them. Y'all are insane. These the white folks y'all running around here thinking are white supremacists. Broke down, busted, dusted, dirty leg, Blackfoot white folk. I told you want to get a kick? Ask a white person where they from in Europe. That'll give you and them a kick. Ask some random white person on your next journey, what part of Europe you from? Watch how both of y'all get a kick. These the white trash people they put in charge of us. Never forget that.
About and existing by mere sufferance, having no rights nor privileges but those conceded by the common consent of their political superiors. These are historical facts that cannot be controverted, and therefore proclaim in tones more eloquently than thunder the listful attention of every oppressed man, woman, and child under the government of the people of the United States of America. In past ages, there were many such classes, as the Israelites in Egypt, the gladiators in Rome, and similar classes in Greece, and in the present age, the gypsies in Italy and Greece, the Cossacks in Russia and Turkey, the Sclaves and Croats in the Germanic states, and the Welsh and Irish among the British, to say nothing of various other classes among other nations, that there have in all ages, in almost every nation, existed a nation within a nation, a people who, although forming a part and parcel of the population, yet were from force of circumstances known by the peculiar position they occupied, forming in fact by the deprivation of political equality with others, no part, and if any, but a restricted part of the body politic of such nations is also true. Such then are the Poles in Russia, the Hungarians in Austria, the Scotch, Irish, and Welsh in the United Kingdom.
Look at these dirty people. Now you saw 3 different photos of 3 different classes of black people. Even our poets blacks. I told y'all I started a series on the poor whites. My purpose of shining light on the poor whites is because too many of us think that these white folks are better than what they really is. They put literal white trash in charge of us. Literal. Like literal, disease-infested, literal white trash. These are the people that they put in our counties and these are the people that were in charge of your KKK and all that stuff. When y'all watch Django and they were saying, God damn it, I can't see out of this goddamn thing. They ignorant and stupid because these are poor white trash. Trash. Even the whites don't like these whites. Our worst Negroes don't look as bad off as these whites. A shame.
And such also are the Jews, scattered throughout not only the length and breadth of Europe, but almost the habitable globe, maintaining their national characteristics and looking forward to high hopes of seeing the day when they may return to their former national position of self-government and independence. Let that be in whatever part of the habitable world it may. This is the lot of these various classes of people in Europe. And it is not our intention here to discuss the justice or injustice of the causes that have contributed to their degradation, but simply to set forth the undeniable facts, which are glaring as the rays of a new...
Now do you see why white folks were so excited to come here and call this the new world? Now do you see? Look at these white folks coming in here. Look at these people. Would you not be excited to come to a place where you hear they got land of milk and honey and freedom and all that shit? These are downtrodden, poor, sickly, like, think about it. Just put yourself in these people's shoes. They got this land and they say it's full of milk and honey. They got gold and all types of stuff. You are poor, downtrodden. Not only can you get to this land, they're going to give you a status. And when you get to this land and have this status, you're going to be able to have dominion over certain parts of this land. Would you not cut off your right foot to get to that land? This is why them white folks was coming damn near in millions, damn near falling off the boat to get over here. It was a win-win situation. Hand over fist. Hand over fist. And it wasn't just white people. It was all people, black people, white people, mixed people. All of them came over here getting hand over fist while the whole objective. Remember, I told y'all, Black America, everybody is in on it except us. Everybody. I told y'all that. What they did was put these white folks over here, the poorest of the poor. And listen, when it come down to white on white crime, they separate real fast and show you who's who. But they pulled the poorest of the poor, the dirtiest of the lowest of the lows of the whites over here. And it was a hand over fist, damn good deal. Because I'm coming from a place where I don't have no religious freedoms. I'm a poor slave, and I can come over here and get land. And you're going to give me, I'm going to have some type of position. Nigga, I'd be running over here too. I would be dying. I would literally cut off my right leg to be over here. Now, fast forward. They tell a whole nother generation of us, oh no, y'all just came from Africa. So, back up. You forget to tell us about all the poor whites that came here, but you made sure to remind us that we came off a boat from Africa. And because most people don't question nothing, you know what they say? Okay. But I tell you what, I was a little bitty girl, and that shit didn't make no sense to me. I was a little bitty girl, and that shit didn't make no sense to me. I don't know why it didn't make no sense. I can't even tell you why at the time it didn't make no sense. But when I saw that shit in my social studies book, I'll never forget it. It didn't make no sense off the cuff. The first time I heard it, I was like, then me, back then, I don't know how to ask questions in my head. I got to ask them out loud. So I want to know 1,000 questions. Well, if we from Africa, why I get in trouble? Nigga, I want to know. Inquiring minds. Now I ask the questions in my head. I'm an adult. But as a child, nah, nigga, you can't just gloss over this. Wait, what happened? As a little bitty girl, it just didn't make sense. I didn't know why it didn't make sense. I didn't know how to put my finger on it. But as a little bitty girl, it didn't make sense. These are the facts. You were already here. You've always been here. They came over here, poor whites, and then turned to flip the story. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
But simply to set forth the undeniable facts, which are glaring as the rays of a noonday sun, thereby to impress them indelibly on the mind of every reader of this pamphlet.
Think about it like this too.
Enough that these people...
If you're a foreigner coming to a new land and you came from a place where you're a slave and you're broke and poor, let's say they give you an out. We got this new land you can go to. You can be successful. You can own businesses. You can own land. You can do everything you want. The only caveat is you can stay as long as you want, as long as you keep the secret. Think about all foreigners, black, white, green, yellow. This is what they're saying. You can come over to this land. You can be fulfilled. You can live the American dream. You can have everything you want. The only caveat is you cannot let out this secret. Remember, I told you it's one big joke and everybody's in on it except us. All of these foreigners that come to these Western worlds, and I'm not just talking about North America and the United States, all of these Western worlds, the Caribbeans, South America, and North America, they come over here and they come because they understand that they get a benefit here. There's a huge benefit here. And part of keeping that benefit is zipping your lips. Let them think they from Africa. Don't you say shit. Because if you say something, you could blow a hole on all this stuff and we all jacked up. So all these foreigners have one common goal: keeping the secret from us. We are the only ones not in on the joke. So everywhere we look, every place we look, we got all these people smiling in our face, acting as if they care about us and they not racist. But the fact of the matter is they something, because everybody is here to benefit off of us. Every single person. Why do you think they infiltrate the islands the way they do? Why do you think they infiltrated North America the way they did? Everybody comes from that eastern portion of the world to benefit off the people in their ignorance. Everybody eats as long as they shut up and don't spill the tea. Facts.
People are deprived of equal privileges by their rulers, but the more effectually to succeed, the equality of these classes must be denied, and their inferiority by nature as distinct races actually asserted. This policy is necessary to appease the opposition that might be interposed on their behalf. Wherever there is arbitrary rule, there must be necessity on the part of the dominant classes. Superiority be assumed. To assume superiority is to deny the equality of others, and to deny their equality is to premise their incapacity for self-government. Let this once be conceded, and there will be little or no sympathy for the oppressed, the oppressor being left to prescribe whatever terms at discretion for their government suits his own purpose. Such, then, is the condition of various classes in Europe. Yes, nations for centuries within nations, even without the hope of redemption among those who oppress them. And however unfavorable their condition, there is none more so than that of the colored people of the United States. End of chapter 1.
Shout out to this brother. What's his name? Whatever the brother name is who did this. You could tell he a theater major, or he was a theater major and into theater, because the way that boy looked back. Hi. This shit gave me 90s infomercial, but he did a great job on chapter 1 with Martin Delany. This is what I'm taking from this. Martin Delany was a tether. He was not a Black American. He cosplayed as a Black American. They say that he did a lot for Black Americans, but we don't know Africans today who do anything for Black Americans. So I am of the belief that Martin Delany ain't do a goddamn thing for no niggas. His whole situation was getting people in America. This is before Meatball now, before Marcus Garvey. His whole situation was things ain't working here. Let's pack our bags and go to Africa. Liberia, that is. He's a Freemason, and he's also clinked up and clacked up with Frederick Douglass and them. Okay? That's his little partner until they fell out, because Frederick Douglass said we don't need to go nowhere, and he believed that we did. So him and Frederick Douglass fell out. The point I'm making is they are making him seem like he's a Black American or African American person, that he's one of us, but he really was one of them. Martin Delany was a foreigner with a hard ER, as a matter of fact. None of what he did benefited Black Americans, colored people, indigenous copper-colored people on this land. Absolutely. I know what they say he did, but what I'm telling you is there's nothing that you are pointing to or they have pointed to that showed me he did for Black Americans. His whole philosophy was for us to pick up our things and leave. Mind you, he's not even from here. He's not even an American citizen. But I bet you he wasn't going around there telling that to the Black people he was coming across. I bet you that. I bet you Martin Delany wasn't starting off his conversation when he ran across Black people in America saying, hey, by the way, I'm a foreigner. I bet you that. Martin Delany could not have been trusted. And I don't want to hear he was the first nothing. He was the first foreigner with the hard ER to tether off of Black people and make a living. That's what I'll give him the first of. The first foreigner with a hard ER to tether off of Black people and make it big. That's the only first I'll give him. Martin Delany ain't shit. And I don't mean to call him that, but it is what it is. He ain't did nothing for us, and he ain't one of us. Let me get my girl up here. Not only did he not do nothing for us, he ain't even from Acorn.
He ain't even from Acorn.
So When we start listen, and let this be a lesson to us. When we start listening to these Black History moments, we got to start looking into this stuff, man. Because it's a lot of stuff this enemy put in. They put a lot of pee in the water, in the pool. Okay? They put a lot of pee in the pool and then dripped it with a little chlorine and told you it was good. What I'm telling you is they got pee in this water and we need to sift through it to make sure before we jump in. Martin Delany was a foreigner who worked, in my opinion, for the government. He was an American colonist person. He was here to get people out of America and back to Africa. And this is the gag about our good beloved Martin Delany. He was trying to get us to go to Liberia, but when the white boy asked him to go, he said no. You got a tether in America, early 1800s, mid 1800s, telling all these Black Americans to go back to Africa. And then as soon as the white boy said, hey, I need you to go to Africa, he said, oh, hell no. Just like today, they got a whole bunch of Africans that love Africa, but God forbid you tell them to go back. That's because there's a big joke. Everybody is in on the joke, Black America, except you. Everybody, black, white, green, yellow, purple, it don't matter. Everybody is in on the joke except you. Everybody knows exactly who you are except you. Everybody knows what you're capable of except you. Everybody knows you're the rightful owners of this land except you. Everybody knows who you are except you. But now it's time that you figure out who you are so you don't have to get your identity from them and you can stand tall in who you are. And then once you get that identity, you can really stand in your throne where you belong. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. So if they're doing it now, they did it then. And if they did it then, they doing it now. And if they did it then and doing it now, guess what, y'all? Guess what? If they did it then and are doing it now, guess what? They're going to do it in the future. It's bound to happen. It's law. It's law. T-Day, thank you so much for the super chat and making it rain. I make it rain. I make it rain. I make it rain on them hoes. I make it rain. I make it rain on them hoes. Thank you for the super chat, T-Day. She says, thank you for Educational Friday, Vu. Thank you so much, T-Day. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Y'all like the video. Divine Empress, thank you for becoming a new member. And thank you for the super chat. Says, Vu, I live in Pittsburgh and never heard of him. I think I heard Tariq Nasheed mention him one day, and that's when I went and looked him up. And I said, oh, I got an Educational Friday him. I got a Joe's him. That's why I heard him at. But I had heard his name. I just couldn't put my finger on why I knew him or where I knew him from. Mother Tree and Moon, thank you for the super chat. Says, at this point, I'm like, were we even slaves? Me and you scratching our head together, Mother Tree and Moon. And again, I'm not saying that slaves didn't exist. I don't think that it exists the way that we thought it was. That Hollywood shit, I know it wasn't like that. With the shackles on the neck and getting off the boat. Kunta Kinte. No. If that, believing in that in 2025 is like believing in Santa Claus. That's just not. With that being said, y'all, I got to get up off of here. I love each and every one of y'all. I got to get off, but I will come back and see y'all next Friday for Educational Friday. I will be at the Dollhouse tomorrow live at some point in time. Make sure y'all pull over and pop out. I love my Educational Friday crew. It's so small, it's so intimate, and we get to really sit down and learn. So y'all know this is my favorite part of the week, and I will see y'all on the next week. I love y'all so much, and make sure y'all take care of each other. Enjoy y'all weekend. Peace.
Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go! It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I want? Blaze up! Come on, Blaze up!
It's the beat for me!
Wow, 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 for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we love. For your boy, for your boy. Also for your boy, mix it for your boy. Drop it for your, wow.
Sister Carol, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.